Okay, let me switch the view in Zoom so that we get some gallery view going here. I'm not sure if that works, but that's the YouTube today. Yeah. Okay, so now we're good, I think.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, after the summer break.
I still have some audio issue here. I hear myself from the stream. I'm not...
Oh yeah, you need to probably mute the stream, right?
Yeah, I did that.
Oh. I don't know. Yeah, I don't hear myself on the stream. Let's get started if it's okay, or do you want to figure it out first?
Go ahead. Let's just get started. I'll see how I deal with this thing.
Yeah, so we released the final chapter, and that means the book is almost done. So the last chapter is on advanced layout. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Here we go. Just a little smaller. And I think it's two main parts, right? Like the layout protocol is basically the new thing that we can use, well, as of last year. And I think by now most people can hopefully use it because, you know, like obviously
iOS
not
16. Yeah,
not many people can support iOS 17 only with their apps, but iOS 16 and up. We start using it more and more. And yeah, the layout protocol, I think when it got out last year, for me, it was very interesting to sort of see a confirmation of what we already thought we knew with the whole proposing and reporting and all of that. And like it helped us also to inspect things, how things work. And yeah, here we just explain a simple layout. And the tricky part, of course, is that the code we have here, that's all the layout for, I guess, a flow layout. And then there's as much code to implement the actual layout protocol. But yeah, this is like a demo. And the other big part is preference-based layout, and that's what we did before iOS 17. So with preference-based layout, it was basically a workaround, and we still need it in some places. So the idea is to measure the sizes of views as they are rendered, and then propagate the sizes back up to a parent using preferences. And then in the on-preference change, you do your actual layout code, and then you render again. And well, first of all, this is a little bit complicated, but you get used to it. The other problem is, of course, we don't really have access to this whole proposing and reporting. So we can not do the same things. I guess they sort of, you know, it's like a Venn diagram that overlaps for the most part, but some things are only possible using preferences, other things only using layout.
So yeah, in the chapter we go over the same example basically with both techniques, and but the preference thing and everything that's related to it. So we have geometry readers in there, we have preferences, we have some other techniques you can use if you don't need preferences but want to do something similar. And so there are a lot of pieces in there that are useful in many places. Even if you build your, I don't know, collection like layout with layout protocol, you will still find good use for all of that's in there.
Yes, and we have a few more small things like variadic views. They're super powerful if you're writing your own containers, be it through preferences or through layout. Like they just they let you iterate over the list of views that you get in from a view builder, essentially. And that allows you to do stuff where you can do like a for each and loop over the views and like, or put in dividers between views or filter views or any of that. And we also talk a little bit about coordinate spaces and anchors. Well, I guess there's match geometry effect in there as well. Match geometry effect is actually it's interesting because you can implement it yourself. Like, for example, the layout protocol, that would be impossible to implement yourself because you don't get access to the low-level things. But match geometry effect is, in essence, it's kind of like say measuring the size of a view or the frame of a view, propagating that up through a preference or through an anchor preference, and then setting the frame and the position of a view of another view based on the match geometry effect. And that's how you can implement it yourself if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not as magical as the thing that SwiftUI has, of course, because you'll need some sort of a modifier at the top level to receive basically what you propagate up and to propagate it back down. So that's basically what Apple can do nicer in this case, but the functionality you can build yourself. So that's also, we did some episodes about that a while ago, right? Building match.
Yeah, this is a few years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me we'll see if I can find it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we still have the iOS 17 chapter, and we basically made the decision now that iOS 17 seems finished enough. Like, we don't believe many more new things will come and things will change. So we're integrating all of that content into the rest of the chapters. And it's a little bit difficult, right? Because we have this book and many people who will read it cannot target iOS 17 only. So we have to take care to distinguish all the parts where it's like, oh, this is this new iOS 17 API. This is old. And yeah, we want to cater to both kinds of people, right? Those who can target iOS 17 and can use the new stuff, and then the people who cannot.
Yeah, and it's easier with things that are just additions. So then you can just describe them in addition to the rest. But there are a few things in iOS 17 that are really kind of replacements for what we had before, right? In terms of the observation for objects, in terms of the way transitions are being built, for example. So there are a few things that really have replaced what was there before, and now we are trying to just kind of fit both into the chapters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But that will work. But it's basically the last step. So all the chapters are done, and integrating the new stuff will be the last step before we probably release the final version.
Yeah, and we're basically, we over the last days we did integrate everything, and now of course we need to rewrite things a little bit to make everything flow more logically, but we're getting pretty close. I think it's, as far as I can tell, like the big thing is still the state chapter, and the other chapters seem mostly fine.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's get started with what we have in the questions repo.
Yes.
Maybe we can start with one last minute question that came in very shortly, and it's nothing we have to live code or something like that, but just something about debugging tools. Because there's a question from David, and he says, well, I know about self._print changes, but then he has a bunch of suggestions what he would like to have, like, but could I use tools or libraries that would, for example, kind of present the view tree in a nicer way so that you can look into that and search in there, kind of make the whole view update cycle more visible, make the layout process more manifest, all this kind of tools. And we would like to have them as well. So
there are some things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's in instruments, you can see some stuff, although I don't really use that. The print changes works. I know that Peter Steinberger once tweeted about how you could set a random background color on a view. And by doing that, you'll see the color change every time the view gets redrawn. So every time the body executes. And for the layout process, maybe we can code that up actually in a little bit. That you can log things if you want to. We have some episodes about this as well, but I think it should be like a 2-minute thing to show.
But basically, the bottom line here is that there could be a lot of nice tools on top of SwiftUI basically, and I think to make this really work well, Apple probably would have to do it, as they did also with view inspectors and stuff like that for UIKit. But we don't have that at the moment, and so we ourselves, we don't use any kind of third-party libraries or anything like that. We basically just get by with the techniques Chris mentioned. So we use the layout protocol, for example, to build a little wrapper view to log proposing and reporting of sizes and stuff like that. Or we use a lot of borders to visualize layouts, or use things like print changes and other kind of logging things to keep track of the views that are being updated, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely poor man's debugging what we do. Let me share my screen. So let me resize my Xcode. So I think what we can do is to, if you want to see, for example, this VStack, how it lays out its children, you can log the proposals that it sends to its children. So you can do like logging layout, which is a layout, and this will have the two methods, size that fits and propose. And here we can sort of assert maybe that we have one subview, and then we can say something like let result equals subviews 0 size that fits proposal, and return the result. And now we can log both the proposal as well as the result. So this would be result. Let's see. Did I do something weird here with the syntax? Probably, right? Yeah, like this. And this would just be, well, I guess we could even probably leave this off. And now we can do an extension on view and say log layout. And this will return some view, and we can do a layout of stuff. A logging layout of stuff. Okay, I guess we do need to place subviews.
Yeah.
Place at bounds.origin. And we can see, maybe we'll add an ID here. And an ID here. And now we can do the log layout for the image and the log layout for the text. And I guess we should be using OS log. That improved a lot. So if we run this, we can see all kinds of proposals. So first, the text gets proposed 868 and a height of 0. So remember, we're inside a VStack. So it will first propose 0 for the height, and it proposes infinity. And it does the same for the image, 0 and infinity. And they both give results, and the text, I guess they're the same flexibility, right? Like the image says, I'm 16 tall, and the text always, the text says I'm 16 tall and the image says I'm 19 tall. So they have the same flexibility, and then everything works fine. If we, for example, do like a rectangle here, we will see that ultimately it will always propose the rectangle first. So first, of course, it gets the flexibility, 0 and infinity. Same for the image, 19 and 19. And then it proposes to the image because that's the least flexible, and then finally to the rectangle. And
so
here it's
always proposed to the rectangle last, right? Because it's
yes.
in this combination.
Yeah, because it's the most flexible view, and it proposes the least flexible view first. And this is very hard to parse, of course. I know that Ola made a nice tool for this based on some of the episodes that we did.
You can very easily basically create something like that for yourself, like tweak it to your needs, to what you want to print, have some additional information, maybe visualize it on screen even. You can use colors, you can log it to the console, you can log it to somewhere else. You can customize this pretty easily, or you look into something like that.
Yeah. This is also not perfect. There's some bugs that happen because layout is not always like, it can be iterative somehow. And yeah, this is based off of some episodes we made, but I guess Ola really took it a step further.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So far for debugging tools, right? It's like, I think maybe one day, I think it would lend itself to create really nice tools, and this really helpful tools. But so far, I guess they have other things to do.
It's hard, and like as an external party, it's also hard because you don't get the framework integration. Like you can build all kinds of stuff, but then people will, like, maybe with macros, I think there are some possibilities now. But then, I'll do an easy question here.
Okay.
About the book formats. So the original book is available in multiple formats, including EPUB. And currently, the beta is only PDF. Are we planning more formats? And I think, we were planning a paper format, but that's it. We haven't planned for doing EPUB. We might, but because we wrote our own tooling to generate the PDFs, it would be a lot of work. And I don't know if we can actually make that work, like if there are better things we should do, because it's just the two of us, like we have pretty limited time. And I don't know if we can really justify a few months or weeks at the very least to do an EPUB format that only maybe a few people will actually use. It'd still be nice, but I don't know if it's feasible for this edition.
Yep. So let me take a look at another question we have here, and that is this one here. Oh no, that's the wrong question. This one here with the yes. So that's a question from Guy, and he asks about this. We have this example in the book. It's in the layout chapter, I believe, about shapes, and there we create a bookmark shape as an example, and we use this method on shape that's called size that fits, where you can actually where you get the proposed size and you can return the size you want to be. So basically, that's another one of these places, like in the layout protocol now, where we can actually hook into this proposing reporting kind of mechanism. So that works for shapes, and for some reason it doesn't work for him. And so let me share another window. So I've tried that now in the old, let me see, what do I have here? Xcode 14.3.1. So this is a super simple test, right? This is just a content view with a body that has a shape inside, and this shape just has just as a rectangle, and then I've implemented size that fits here that just returns a fixed size. So if I would comment this one out, then we would see here that the shape fills up the entire screen because that's the size it gets proposed. And the size that fits that I implement here just returns a fixed 50 by 50. And so that gets called without problems. I tried the same code in the Xcode 15 beta, the recent beta, and it gets called as expected as well. So I wasn't really able to reproduce the issue. So you would definitely want to implement it in your shape, not in an extension on shape, because you really would want to implement that for a specific shape, right? So for your shape.
Can you try it as an extension on test, maybe?
On test, yeah.
I think it will still be the same because it's still in the same module. It will definitely not work if you would do this across modules. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So that still works. Yeah.
Yeah,
so it has always worked for us, but we haven't seen that yet. I'm not sure what's going on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can submit a little bit more of a code example which you used to this GitHub issue, because for us it works just fine so far.
Yeah.
So that's this one.
I can do the next one about safe area. So the question is, how is the safe area proposed down to children views? And so yeah, maybe it's a little easier if I share my screen again. So here we have the code from before. Let me change this back and also delete our login layout. So when we open this up in the simulator in the preview, let's see if that works today. Then hopefully we'll see. Well, we won't see the safe area actually, because this is a VStack that's it's not very tall, and so it will get centered on the screen. So here we go. I'll zoom out a little bit. If we do a frame max height infinity and align it to the top, now we'll see that it's at the top of the screen, but not quite, right? Like it's not in the safe area. If we would do something like, well, let me remove the padding here. So it's a little bit closer to the safe area. Now, if we do something like edges ignoring safe area all, now we can see it's all the way at the top of the screen. And we remove the padding completely, so we can really see the globe at the top of the screen. And it's same for the bottom. So if now we get to the very bottom of the screen, but without this modifier, we're not drawing inside the safe area. And the safe area is basically, I think, part of the proposal to the view, except that you don't typically see it. So I think it sort of gets looped through as we are proposing to children. And we can visualize the safe area that gets proposed. So I think that might help. So we could write an extension on view saying something like visualize safe area. And we can do this maybe with an overlay or a background and use a geometry reader, because in there we can actually read the safe area. So let's use a Z stack. And first we'll visualize the vertical safe area. So we could do a V stack with a spacing of 0. And for example, we could make the top safe area yellow, give this a frame, and the height will be proxy a safe area insets.top. Then we'll use a color that's clear to fill up the rest. And let's see if this works. If I'll remove this frame for now, or actually let me add it back up. Maybe center and add this modifier over here, visualize safe area. So we don't see anything, but if we go to top, now we can see something like it's drawing the safe area, but it's not really correct. So we can add the edges ignoring the safe area all here. And now we can really see the safe area of this view. And it's the yellow part. It's not the full width, but at least it's definitely now showing like, okay, from my top edge to above that, we have the safe area. And we can also do the same thing for the bottom safe area. So we can say hide proxy safe area inset the bottom. And let's give this one a height as well. And this would be proxy that's size and height. So it looks exactly the same, but if we would have bottom alignments, we don't see anything. But now if we move this over here, we do see the red thing over here. If we would change this to a color that clear, we can really see the safe area at the top and the bottom. And we can do the exact same thing for the horizontal safe area. So we can set it here and say the width would be leading, this would be width. Oh, and this as well. And this would be width. And use trailing. And let's use green and blue. And then maybe make everything a little bit more transparent. So obviously, like this, this color, the clear, has only the top and the bottom. But if we would modify the safe area, so we could do safe area inset. Say we want to add something to the leading, and we want to add like, I don't know, a color that's clear with a frame that has a width 20. Now we can see the green safe area visualized. And you can use this actually inside other, inside your own applications as well. So let's see if I can find this. We have done this, for example, over here in our workshop app where we have a simulator. This is also using the safe area for this part so that our simulator renders in exactly the same way as the actual simulator. And I don't know if we have something with scroll. I think maybe here. Yeah, we don't really have scrolling in here. Yeah, I guess here we can see how it starts at the top and it scrolls behind the safe area. It's like too many scroll bars, but this works exactly like in the real simulator. And so you can use this inside your own views as well if you want to do similar stuff. And yeah, this is how you can visualize that. And you can really see here. We remove this again. That how the safe area sort of propagates. It's basically if your view touches the safe area, it will continue to include the safe area. Otherwise, it will ignore it.
Yeah, and can you, with regard to the question, can you show what this does in terms of, for example, if a child in the VStack, if you, for example, put back your two children or something like that, and then you have an ignore safe area on one of them, what this does to the layout process of the VStack. That was also part of the question. So if you if you remove the visualize, and then oh, you have the frame there, yeah, okay, yeah, and then if you yeah, for example, you could also just put a spacer like in between both, so that we spread that out, like so that the top view touches the top safe area, basically in the bottom view the bottom safe area. And now if you would, for example, on the text say ignore safe area or edges bottom or something like that, doesn't really matter. So that doesn't change anything in terms of how this lays out, right? Because the VStack doesn't have this modifier. If you would put this modifier on the VStack, then that would actually change how the views are laid out on screen, because the VStack now is a different height available. But if it's just on a sub view of the VStack, the VStack still has the height of the screen minus the safe areas available, and it will distribute that height amongst its subviews. And so that doesn't really do anything with how the VStack lays out its children. It just would, if that would be another container, for example, that's within the VStack, well, then it would have an influence on that container's subviews, but it doesn't do anything further up the view tree. So
if we use simplified numbers, like if we do this, like let's say the VStack gets proposed 100 for the height, or like let's say 300, it's a little bit more realistic, but let's say it gets proposed 300. If we ignore the safe area, like the VStack, if we do that on the text, the VStack still gets proposed at 300 and it will still lay out the children. And if we do this, the VStack will receive a different proposal, like let's say 320. And we can see it here also. This is, I think, interesting. If we do a colored gray as the background, of course, that colored gray gets proposed the size of the text. That's how background works. But because we are touching the bottom safe area, we can actually put the edges ignoring safe area on this colored gray, and it will still touch the safe area now. So now the background gets proposed, let's say 10 for the height of the text. Then the colored gray uses the edges ignoring safe area, and so the gray color gets proposed like, I don't know, 30 maybe, and including the height of the safe area. So it's a little bit weird, but in our testing, it mostly does work. Once you sort of get it, it does work as expected. It seems a pretty stable API, but it's sometimes very tricky. Like when you're out of this, like if I don't work with the safe area for some time, it always takes me a little while to get back into it. But these experiments help there, just small experiments, and yeah. Yes,
and it's also it's a little bit special in a way, right? Because it's not the edges ignoring safe area on line 13. That's not just proposing a taller size to the color.gray, because otherwise the background would still, if that would just propose a 30 to the color.gray, it would still be centered relative to this text, right? So if you would simulate this with a frame height 30, well, this gray box would be centered vertically relative to the text, because the background centers by default, and that's not what's happening here. So it's more complicated than that. It really just bleeds into the safe area in one direction.
Yeah, and I guess we are giving, like we understand this at some level, but I don't think we understand it. You and me don't understand it at the same deep level as we understand like the layout process of HText, for example. And so this is why you're getting a very long answer here. I think if we understood it even better, we could give a short answer. Yeah.
Yeah, but experimenting like this is always a good, you can find out a lot by just creating simple examples and using backgrounds and borders and other tools to just visualize things. So
exactly. I'm just closing up the issue here. We got the bookmark, we got the debugging tools. Yeah,
that's all. That's all we have for today.
Are there any questions in the chat? There's two hellos. Hello, both. Yeah, let's see if anybody has a question. There's like a slight time delay, so.
Yes. So otherwise, I'm not sure. We haven't talked about that beforehand, but I guess we will definitely plan one more Q&A before we go to final version, I guess.
Yeah,
but we'll
definitely next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, now that the book is almost done, it's also a little bit, there's so many more things that could be nice to put in, but I'm also kind of happy that we kept it short. It's kind of nice to have a shorter book, I think. There are enough very big books already. And yeah, it's already impossible with SwiftUI, I guess, to cover everything. Yeah.
kind of
yeah, I don't think there's going to be any more questions.
Like it's all kind of exponential growth, right, in terms to cover of what you could cover.
Yeah, and I think like if we look at what the changes are in the last release, that's a lot more than the year before. So now if they keep up that speed or get even faster, then it's going to be a lot to cover next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no more questions so far in the chat. Then I would say let's wrap it up. We'll send an email again or announce this on Twitter /X /Mastodon /whatever is the thing of the day, when we will do the next one, and then we'll see you all there.
Cool.
Have a good day. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.